Hello and welcome to Doves for Peace. I'm Dr. Keith Beasley and it's my pleasure to be with you again this evening. As we approach Easter and we're all full of thoughts of Holy Week and suffering and change and all the pain that entails, I'd like to look at a different facet of that and share a few of my experiences from this time of year. Hopefully I'll include a few poems or songs within that, but what I'd like to do is to go to a different phase of April and this phase of the year and what that's all about. But first, let's just connect to each other. Let's connect to the idea of peace. And let's connect to this idea of being at peace with ourselves, with each other, with the world. So I invite you to take a deep breath in. And breathe out in your own time. And as you breathe in, imagine that you are breathing in a sense of peace, a sense of calm, a sense of being connected to life in all its richness and wonders. You get a sense of peace, of calm, and breathe out all other thoughts, all other feelings. Thank you. I don't know about you, but as I do that, I immediately feel connected with you all. And I sense that by just feeling warm and tingling, and my ears are burning. And I don't know if you're aware of the expression that we have here in the UK, the idea that when your ears are burning, it's because someone is talking about you. And I rather like that, but it's this same idea that we are connecting. We have this telepathic, energetic, higher level connection between us. And the moment I go live on this channel, on other broadcasts that I do, I sense this connection between myself and whoever you are, wherever you are in the UK or around the world. And I think that's the beauty that we can gain from the internet. It helps us to manifest this connection that exists between all of us as and when we allow it. So that's part of what we in the year 2015 are going through, becoming part of a global community. And I feel that the technology is helping to bring about the cosmic and the divine and the sacred change that we on Doves for Peace are talking about. But through the internet we begin to see and feel that we're all human underneath our labels of different cultures, different faiths, different countries of origin, and that we all share this idea of what it means to be human. And another important part of being human is an ability to laugh at ourselves, an ability to laugh at anything, particularly the challenges of life, an ability to have fun, to be joyous. And I've spoken about that in other shows. There's another element that comes into play at the beginning of April. And I don't know if this is a peculiarly British thing, but on the 1st of April in the UK, we have something called All Fools Day, or April Fools. It's for only the 1st of April, in fact normally only the morning of the 1st of April. And on the 1st of April in the morning, it's accepted that you can play practical jokes on other people. And indeed, the better the practical joke, the more realistic, the more of a tease, the more an opportunity to test people's ability to see the truth and to find fun in a difficult situation, the better. And as an example of this and how sometimes we take ourselves too seriously, and sometimes we just need to be present and to go with silly things that are happening in our lives. I'd like to share two examples of April Fool, which I think are in the spirit of playfulness and joyfulness, and the sort of things that the angels would approve of and encourage and enable us to do. So there's two examples come to mind. One of them is a classic within the UK, and any UK listener, viewer may well have come across this, but I'll talk you through it and remind you, and for those outside the UK. So this was some years ago now, and we had a number of local or regional television news evening programmes. They told local stories. Anyway, on the 1st of April many years ago, there was this news item, and they went to this farm somewhere in south of England probably, and this farm apparently, so the story went, grew spaghetti. Think about it. And they showed this scene, what looked like a horticultural farm, and these plants very tall, and from these plants were strands of spaghetti. And it was so well done, this programme. It was done like a proper news broadcast, with a normal presenter seriously describing how spaghetti is grown, the conditions you use. And it was just so brilliant that so many people looked at it and thought, hang on a minute, is this true or isn't it? That's not the point. The point is that it was believable, and it had you hanging on to the story. It helped to take your mind off whatever may have been troubling you that day. And to me, that was the whole point of April Fool's Day, that it's an excuse to have a bit of fun, and don't we need it? So that was one classic example. The other example came from the town of Northampton, where I used to live in that area for many years. Now, Northampton, as any of you who have alighted at the train station will know, is home of the Carlsberg Brewery, where they make lager. And Carlsberg, as you may know, is often advertised with the slogan, probably the best lager in the world. And if you get off at Northampton railway station, there is a Carlsberg advert that says, Northampton, probably. And this brewery is alongside the River Nen in Northampton, not far from the railway station. And on April the 1st, a few years ago when I lived there, the local radio station on its news bulletins was reporting on a leak from this brewery. And the leak was very severe. And something had happened in the brewery, and all this premium lager was flowing into the River Nen. And the news broadcast was saying, be warned, there's a lot of people gone to look, and the road is very congested, avoid this area. But of course, the more they said this, the more people would say, well, what? Lager in the river, let's go and get some. And the story went on and gradually grew and gradually built. In the end, I think they had to tell the truth that it was just an April Fool, because the area was getting so congested, the police were worried about safety and the road traffic. But I was listening to this from my home a few miles away, and it just, to me, summoned up how gullible we are, or how we like a story, and how to ask the question, well, is this true or isn't it? Just helps us to realise that the boundary between truth and reality is often very blurred. What is reality anyway? What is reality? And these April Fool stories really help to highlight this, and really help everybody in those two situations to have a good smile, have a good laugh, and to share the joke, to share what we were talking about. So those are a couple of examples of how we need to make light of the situation, particularly at serious times of the year. Okay, so laughter is the best medicine. And at about the same time, I was reading a book by Robert Holden, who I think worked in the Oxford area, and he wrote a book called Laughter, the Best Medicine. And he was actually using laughter therapy in local hospitals. And he was in clinical trials proving that to get patients laughing really was helping their recovery, really was helping them to feel better. And I think sometimes those of us who call ourselves spiritual, those of us who profess to be deeply committed to spirituality and to personal growth, can get a bit too caught up in the theory. We can become a little bit too self-important in all this stuff. And it really does us good to have a laugh and let our hair down. And I smile because this is particularly pertinent to me at the moment. I was doing an interview a few weeks ago, a lady called Sally Stubbs. And if any of you are familiar with my Knowing and Growing show, which is available on YouTube, I was doing an article with Sally Stubbs on the topic of the wounded child. How often some of our deep emotional issues are because of things that happened to us when we were young. And so I was sharing with her how I have a bit of an anxiety issue. If I've got new things happening in my life, I can sometimes get really serious bloatedness, irritable bowel, and feel very anxious and worried and scared. And I asked this therapist whether that might be due to the fact that when I was a kid, everything was very controlled, very predictable. I wasn't allowed to express my feelings. I knew what was going to happen, and if there was different things, new things, I would be discouraged from sharing how I felt about it. And she said, quite likely. And we started delving into this, and she encouraged me to think back, take my mind back to when I was a kid, and to express things that perhaps I didn't express at the time. Well, it's quite interesting because the last couple of days we've had visitors, and I live now in North Wales, and the visitors wanted to go to Conwy Castle on the North Wales coast, a wonderful medieval castle. And we'd parked our car and we're going under this tunnel to walk up to the town and the castle. And the friend I was with was also feeling quite playful. And we both felt like being little boys. And so we did. And we went through this tunnel and went, ooh, ooh, as if we were trains. And whenever we had an opportunity over these couple of days when we've just been out enjoying a holiday, enjoying a chance to let our hairs down, to be ourselves, we have consciously and deliberately allowed our inner child to express itself, to be a bit foolish, to be a bit childlike, to have a bit of fun. We've tried not to embarrass the people, our partners who we were with. We've tried not to embarrass the officials in the places we were visiting, but we've also allowed ourselves to perhaps have a bit of a tantrum, to express ourselves in ways maybe we never did when we were young boys. And I feel that by doing that, it's really helping me to undo some of the suppressed emotions I had when I was young, and helping me to be more connected to who I really am. So this idea of allowing ourselves to be playful, I think, is a wonderful balance to some of the serious stuff that we have to do on a spiritual journey. So I'd like to give you a chance to do something similar. And I'm going to talk you into a little guided meditation, a little visualization from my book Rosy Tinted Glasses, which I wrote with an artist friend of mine from Northamptonshire, Julie Rosebills. And in this we take a situation, we give you an image, and I lead you into a visualization, a guided meditation. This one is called Be Outrageous Together. And here's the illustration, I hope you can see. be outrageous together. Let's have a look at that in a few moments. Okay, so now what I'd like you to do is to close your eyes. You've taken the weight off your feet. Allow yourself to relax into the chair or however you're sitting. Take out a big sigh. Release any tension or uncertainty you may have. Breathe in a sense not just of peace, but of joy, of playfulness, the spirit of the inner child. And bring to mind the picture or the image of a clown or a comic actor, maybe fictional, actual, or a cartoon. It could be someone you know, a friend who's got a good sense of fun, or maybe a favourite sitcom character. Anyone who makes you laugh. Bring that person to mind, picture them in your mind, and imagine yourself with that person or character. Allow in your mind you to be with this comic character, this comedian, this comic actor, cartoon character, whoever it might be. Picture yourself in your mind with them. How has your appearance changed? Imagine that you are dressed in a role suitable to be with them. So perhaps they're a comic and you're their straight man. Or perhaps you're Krusty the Clown. Or perhaps you're Bart Simpson assisting Krusty the Clown. Or perhaps you're some other comic character, or you've sprouted pink spiky hair. Or perhaps you're wearing 10-inch shoes. Or perhaps you're dressed up in some other way that makes you feel a sense of fun, a sense of play. This is your imagination. This is your chance to express and do in your imagination something that maybe you've always wanted to do, or you felt you've never had the chance to do. This is your chance to be silly, to be a bit of a fool, to be an idiotic person, to be a Mr. Bean or a Monty Python character. Or perhaps you're in the Paddington film, helping Paddington through his chaotic episodes. Allow yourself to be with someone you admire and who makes yourself laugh. What would be your role within it? Would you just be observing, laughing with them? Would you be assisting them, supporting them? Or would you be the central character? Would it be you in the slapstick action, throwing the wallpaper paste at someone, the custard pie? Whatever works for you, play with the image. Are you in a circus tent? Are you on the Garfield set? Are you by the side of a lake of custard? Anything. There are no rules in this imaginary world. You can have fun, you can be yourself. You can imagine yourself as a cartoon character who's never going to get killed, never going to get told off, never going to have to suffer the consequences of whatever they do. Allow silly thoughts to enter your head. Your mother doing a can-can. Your boss being eaten by a crocodile. Whatever. Picture yourself in the action. Play with the idea of you as part of a comedy, a comic adventure, a cartoon. The audience are cheering it, the audience are cheering you. What are you doing to enable them, to encourage them? Okay, how was that? Please feel free to share your experiences in the chat or on the later YouTube version. I'd really love you to share your stories as to where that visualization took you. And I hope you'll find that in doing exercises like that, you can just take the mind off whatever might be worrying you, particularly as perhaps at this time of year you might be looking at some serious issues and facing the harsher realities of life. I know that I tend to, even if I'm not consciously doing a Lent type practice. I'll find at this time of year that I'm going deep into myself. I'm feeling more connected and able to face difficult things that perhaps I haven't faced before. That's the purpose of this time of year. But that doesn't mean we can't allow ourselves to be childlike or even a fool. Another example of that is, over many years I used to perform in a village pantomime with Cinderellas, your Snow White and Seven Dwarfs and things like that. And I must admit I quite enjoyed being a dwarf. That was good fun. But quite often I would play the fool character, like Buttons in Cinderella. And the point about these fool characters is that they are idiots. They're simple. They have no particular intelligence. They don't particularly want to do anything brave. But they care. They allow the love for the leading lady, the leading boy, to allow them to know what needs to be done. They just are present. They just are spontaneous. They allow that love to give them courage to fight the evil monster, to fight the baddie, the bad witch, the bad wizard, the people in our lives who are perhaps not as joyous or positive as we would like. And sometimes to be joyous, to be joyful, to be childlike helps us in that process. It's not about intelligence. It's not about being clever or being able to think fast. So this all ties in with some of the other broadcasts I've given over the last few months on emotional intelligence, that intelligence isn't about our intellectual ability, our ability to think quickly or rationally or logically. It's about being present, being in the moment. And again, the childlike quality can really help us to do that and be that. So I encourage you to do a visualization like I've just given you, to allow your mind to be spontaneous, to be imaginative. And that may give you some clues as to ways around your current difficulties and help you to know that nothing really matters, really. There are no rules, and to do a visualization like that helps us to know that. There are no rules, and what is truth, what is reality, it's just perception. And the April Fool gags on TV and radio I was telling you about are wonderful examples. There are no rules. We know this time of year in the UK we have April showers, but we have them in March, we have them in May. We don't know what the weather's going to be. We cannot predict the weather, we cannot predict the future, so why do we try? The idiot characters, the simpletons in the pantomimes, they don't try and predict, they don't try and control. They just enter into the moment, express their love, and do what they need to do. Are they foolish? I would say not. The true fool is just being naturally themselves. They know that sometimes we think too much, we try too hard, we reason things out when we just need to let go. I think we can learn from them. I'm sure we can. Okay, so as usual, I can't leave without a little song. This is only very short this time, and it's not a hymn, it's not from a musical. and I'll only do a couple of verses on it because I do apologise, I haven't practiced this as much as perhaps I should have done. But it's from the wonderful John Lennon and Paul McCartney, a Beatles song. And what else, since we're talking about being childlike and being foolish? The Fool on the Hill. Day after day, alone on a hill, the man with a foolish grin is keeping perfectly still. But nobody wants to know him, they can see that he's just a fool. And he never gives an answer, but the fool on the hill sees the sun going down, and the eyes in his head see the world spinning round. While on the way, head in a cloud, the man of 1,000 voices talking perfectly loud, but nobody ever hears him, or the sound he appears to make, and he never seems to notice that the fool on the hill sees the sun going down, and the eyes in his head see the world spinning round. The fool on the hill sees the sun going down, and the eyes in his head see the world spinning round. How many of you were able to watch the eclipse a few days ago? Unfortunately, the weather here didn't really allow it, but I watched it on telly, and I know a few people were able to see a very good solar eclipse here in the UK. And during that moment when the moon moved over the sun, it went dark, it went cold. And if we allowed ourselves to just watch it, reflect on it, we could see the world spinning round. There is something magical about eclipses and the way the moon is in a different place every night and the moon changes phase. If we allow ourselves to see it with the eyes of an innocent child, with the eyes of a fool, with the eyes of a fool on a hill, we too can see the sun going down, and the eyes in our head can see the world spinning round. We are part of this one creation of life, our world spinning around the sun, moon spinning around us, and the universe expanding out into the infinite. We are nothing yet all. And the innocent child and the fool can observe that and know it and enjoy it. I do hope you can do the same. Thank you for listening. Good night. Bless you all.